It's the biggest weekend in basketball, and it all begins tomorrow.
As NBA All-Star Weekend approaches, we get a sneak peek at what league officials tell me is the most immersive fan event to date.
A new idea from the NBA to push people with big ideas even further. And one Utah woman did just that. How this unique competition is now changing her life.
The stage is set for this year's NBA All-Star Game, but do you remember when it came to town the first time?
It sounds cliche, but it feels like yesterday.
I'll have an inside look at some of those that still work here today.
It's a really good city.
And the TNT crew, Shaq, Chuck and company talking NBA All-Star Weekend here in Salt Lake.
And it's not just about basketball this weekend. From parents learning how to keep tempers in check when things heat up in high school athletics.
And one Utah elementary in need of a makeover. How the league is helping communities all over Salt Lake City.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Kelly Chapman.
And I'm Bob Evans. We'll have a look at a proposed $400 million tax cut that would affect virtually every Utahn, and another step in bringing the Olympics back to Utah in just a bit.
But first, we are just hours away now from NBA All-Star Weekend, and downtown Salt Lake is bustling. Thousands of people are coming to the Salt Lake Valley for all the events, including one that is about an interactive experience for you, the fan. Today, we got a preview.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold takes us inside the NBA crossover event happening at the Salt Palace this weekend.
My dad when I was little, and he took me in like 1993.
A full circle moment for Kristen Cartwright, 30 years later.
Now I get to bring my own kids that were like my age when I came my first time.
Cartwright and her family getting a sneak peek at the NBA crossover. What league officials tout as the most immersive fan experience during All-Star Weekend.
We're excited to see what else they have here.
From shooting hoops to live music and plenty of NBA swag.
It's been a super huge moment. It's this all-over print t-shirt.
Jordan Bentley is the owner and founder of Hypeland, a clothing company based out of Los Angeles.
For us, this is like the exposure of a lifetime.
The latest edition of NBA Crossover is allowing this lifelong basketball fan and business owner a chance to team up with the NBA and showcase his product.
We're getting a chance to expose our brand to new audiences, getting a chance to expose different people to our love of anime.
This is really your best opportunity to get a little bit of that All-Star excitement.
Steve Lichtenberger is the director of events for the NBA. He says they expect thousands of people to take part in the event during All-Star Weekend, making this year's NBA crossover 4 times bigger than last year's event in Cleveland.
We have over 40 different activations. We're going to have over 50 player appearances. We'll have 3 concerts.
There's also some nostalgia with this year's event, the return of NBA Jam Session, which started 30 years ago, right here in Salt Lake.
This is the 30th anniversary of it, and we're really excited for people who have lived here to re-experience everything they remember.
An event that is not only family-friendly, but also cost-effective.
Tickets start at $20 for kids and $40 for an adult.
Whether it's business owners like Bentley or avid fans like Cartwright, they're just excited to be part of the experience.
I've never been to any other All-Star weekends.
Since we didn't want to pay the big bucks to get in the actual games, it's fun to have this kind of thing.
Now, while a select group of people got to take everything here for a spin today, things won't officially tip off here at the NBA crossover until Friday beginning at noon. Here at the Salt Palace, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A variety of all-star events will be held all weekend, promising a good time for every fan and every budget. For a full list, go to our website, fox13now.com.
Meantime, more and more crowds of people began to fly into Utah today. Here's a look at some of the passengers that passed through Salt Lake, some of the cars at least that passed through. There we go. There are some flyers. With this being All-Star Weekend and President's Day weekend, it is looking to be one of the busiest, if not the busiest time of the year for Salt Lake International Airport. Among all the people who came to Salt Lake City today were the broadcast team for the NBA All-Star Game with TNT.
Fox 13 sports reporter Morgan Vance joins us a little early tonight with a welcome Utah had for the hosts of Inside the NBA. Morgan.
Yeah, Bob, I won't mess up your name. Kelly, you all know the names and faces of these NBA legends. Charles Barkley, of course, Shaq, and Kenny the Jet Smith, all arriving as part of the weekend coverage on TNT's American Express Roadshow at the complex just south of the Gateway downtown. They actually kicked off their live coverage of All-Star Weekend tonight as people packed the place to see them in person, as well as musical performances from Wiz Khalifa and Chloe Bailey. When asked their thoughts on the current version of the new look Jazz, they say the team's recent moves to add several draft picks over the next few years to surround All-Star starter Lauri Markkanen is very calculated, a strategy that could set up their new franchise player for success.
When I saw him in Arizona, I said he's perfect for the NBA's game today. And I think he's on his third team. And I'm trying to figure, like, who don't want an all-star on there, or guys who's that talented on their all-star team.
Ooh, what a hat by Shaq there. Tomorrow on Good Day Utah at 9:45, Kenny the Jet will join the morning crew live in studio to promote much more of the team's coverage of this jam-packed NBA All-Star Weekend. First one here in decades, I might add. I'll be back later in the show with a slew of college hoops highlights from tonight. Morgan Vance, Fox 13 Sports.
Morgan, thanks so much. So fun to see all these people coming into town.
Yeah. So nice that the air is so clear right now, too, Allison.
Yes, we will have some haze returning, but one of our viewers just shared this picture with us. Vivint getting ready for the big weekend. Scott Taylor, thanks so much for sharing this picture in our Facebook group. Utah's Weather Authority, wonderful weather to start the weekend, but we will see some haze building. And then we've got quite a few storms to talk about. But right now here across the state, many of us feeling like we're about 15 to 25 degrees. I do want to point out Bryce Canyon right now where it feels like it's 23 below zero. So dangerously cold there. We do have wind chill warnings tonight for Zion National Park and Capitol Reef. This takes us through 8 a.m. starting at 11 o'clock tonight. We will see some increasing clouds, so overnight temps might make it to about 15 to 20 for much of the Wasatch Front, but the cloud cover will actually help us from getting too terribly cold compared to if we had clear sky the entire night. But we will have mostly clear sky for a portion of the evening, which will allow us to cool down about 15 to 20 when you wake up tomorrow morning. Highs in the 30s tomorrow with more haze. Well, if your air quality forecast for the weekend, then we do have some pretty big storms on tap. Details on that coming up.
Allison, thanks so much. We have an update now on a Utah missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who has not been heard from since Cyclone Gabrielle hit New Zealand. Tonight, a church spokesman says they've received second-hand reports that Elder Logan Williams of Ogden is alive. A state of emergency has been declared in New Zealand as Gabrielle flooded the North Island's east coast and killed at least 5 people. The church says while Elder Williams and one other missionary have not been able to make calls, local church members have been able to radio out and report they've heard the missionaries are doing well.
The Fox 13 News investigative team has learned from several sources within the Salt Lake City Police Department that the agency's communications director was reported for showing up to a murder scene under the influence. But after days of asking, the city's police chief refuses to answer our questions. Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbets shares what we know so far.
Well, Brent Weisberg is the face of the Salt Lake City Police Department. It's his job to relay critical information to the public. On Saturday night, he responded to a homicide scene where detectives say a 14-year-old suspect shot and killed a 17-year-old and then got away. There was an active search and public safety information needed to be relayed, but several officers and administrators tell us when the communications director showed up, someone on scene reported him for being under the influence of alcohol. The Salt Lake City Police Department will not say if Weisberg is under investigation. They won't say whether an outside agency was called in to investigate. They won't say if anyone tested his blood alcohol content. They won't say if he drove his police car that night. And they won't even confirm if he still works there, if he was fired, or if he's on administrative leave. These are questions we've been asking the department all week. All we've been told is the department does not comment on personnel matters.
They don't seem to find the right pace to communicate the right thing that is good for, the public to know and to keep them out of speculating, which is the worst thing that can happen for a police department, is people to wonder and guess and feel like information is being hidden.
Matt Evans is a retired internal affairs sergeant with Salt Lake City PD. He says it doesn't matter if you're a police officer or a communications director. You should be stone cold sober if you're at work. Senior officers tell us Weisberg is one of the department's most influential decision makers. Even though he's a civilian, he's a close advisor to the chief, and he supervises police officers. Some are afraid to speak publicly due to fear of retaliation.
Should the department at least confirm whether he's on administrative leave?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't, and I don't know why they would treat civilians different if he indeed was.
We've also requested body camera video from that night. So far, we've not heard back on that part of our request either. We've also reached out to Weisberg directly. He's not responded to our request for comment. Reporting in studio, Adam Herbets, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Rallying for recovery, people gathering at the state capitol to raise awareness about substance abuse and what they hope will change.
Some big tax cuts are coming to Utah families if a massive bill comes to fruition. What you can expect from the legislature.
And how bills on Utah's Capitol Hill will help Salt Lake City come one step closer to potentially hosting another Winter Olympics.
It was called a Rally for Recovery. People gathered at the state capitol today to raise awareness about substance abuse and show others on this road that they are not alone.
Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi spoke to people there at the rally about the message they want to share.
Recognize that recovery is for everyone, then we can change the dynamic and the conversation that needs to be taking place about recovery.
About 100 people came together at the state capitol on Thursday.
We share our stories, and the way we share our stories is usually in hopes to inspire other people to come and walk this journey rather than going back to jail or back to prison or taking a fatal overdose of heroin or fentanyl or something like that.
Damian Trujillo has been sober for 14 years.
Lose a lot of friends to addiction, working in recovery and being involved in the recovery community.
He comes to this rally every year and says it's important to do this for the recovery community.
That we can unite together and that it's possible to stay sober and to have a better life.
Recovery helped me in my life by giving back to the people and giving back to my family and really getting my family back, really. You know, done so much bad in my life that I really feel that I need to give back something and really need to turn my life around and to find a new life, a new way.
Holding signs, cheering, celebrating recovery programs, and sharing stories in the rotunda, all in solidarity.
People can be seen as people, that every single person is loved for who they are, as a human being. They're not somebody that is lost. They're seen, they're loved and cared for. They're needed. We're all needed. It's not a them and us, it's a we.
This comes as 2 advisory committees of the FDA voted unanimously in favor of making a nasal spray version of the opioid overdose antidote naloxone, also known as Narcan, available over the counter. If the FDA commissioner gives his approval, you could also find it in vending machines, grocery stores, and gas stations across the country.
So Narcan is super important for our community. If everybody has a Narcan kit at home, what that can do is potentially save a lot of people's lives.
If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction and you're looking for a road to recovery, you can find a list of resources at our website, fox13now.com. On Capitol Hill, I am Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Utah House and Senate leaders have agreed on a major $407 million tax cut, giving the average Utah family of 4 an extra $204 a year.
So let's break down what is inside this tax cut package. If passed, House Bill 54 cuts the income tax rate from 4.85% down to 4.65%. It would also expand a Social Security tax credit to seniors earning up to $75,000 a year. Now, there is a double dependent exemption for pregnant women and the earned income tax credit for Utahns on the lower income scale. That would increase from 15% to 20%.
It's a 20% improvement over the credit that they're currently getting, which is a percentage of the federal credit. So again, just like the other policies, it's a step in the right direction.
Even with that, the rate is not as low as tax watchdogs wanted, and advocates for Utah's poor wanted no tax cuts and the money to be spent on social services. Governor Cox says he will be looking at what's proposed, including a proposed constitutional amendment to remove the earmark for education and social services. You can expect this tax bill to start rocketing through the legislature next week. A talk of Salt Lake City hosting the Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games echoed through the Utah State Capitol today.
House Bill 430 and its companion resolution passed unanimously in both the House and Senate. They essentially say Salt Lake City is ready for the greatest athletes in the world to compete here, addressing things like transportation, security, and the health and safety of the athletes.
It's thousands of pages, and it's all these guarantees that the IOC has to have to say, we can count on Utah to host the games.
Committee members are pushing for Salt Lake City to host one or both the 2030 and 2034 Winter Games.
All right, aren't we happy that All-Star Weekend's happening here in Salt Lake City, not Denver? Take a look at this temperature in Denver right now. It is 10 below. It's cold for much of the country, especially for us here out west. And we're going to continue with temperatures tomorrow in the 30s. So here are your main weather headlines. Here's what I want you to know as we head into tonight. We do have a few areas of wind chill warnings. Air quality will be a little bit hazy as we start the weekend, but we've got some pretty big storms on tap, especially next week. And we'll also have a system that's going to brush by on Saturday night, which will hopefully help clear out a little bit of the haze that does build. But high pressure will continue to shift off to our east through Friday night, and then we have a system that's going to brush by Saturday night into Sunday morning. We maybe see a few flurries out of this Sunday morning, but we're going to see our next bigger storm arriving Wednesday. We could maybe see a few impacts Tuesday with this also, but the bulk of this precipitation Tuesday night into Wednesday, lingering into Thursday, with still some more active weather off to our west that will make its way through the region through the end of next week. So next week's storm, I want you to pay attention to. We have low confidence in the exact details right now of how that's going to play out, but right now it looks like there is the chance that it's a significant winter storm, and I want everyone to be prepared in case that is a scenario that does play out. For Salt Lake City through the evening, we've got temperatures that'll be about 15 to 20 for the Wasatch Front when you wake up tomorrow morning. So Friday, 7 a.m., we're heading into a holiday weekend and also All-Star weekend, and we've got temperatures that'll be about 15 to 20 for Eagle Mountain, Provo, Tooele, Salt Lake, Ogden by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. It'll be close to 0 or below 0 for Logan, Park City, Evanston, Vernal, Price, Richfield. We do have wind chill warnings for Capitol Reef and also for Zion National Park tomorrow morning, so frostbite and hypothermia concerns there. For the Wasatch Front tomorrow, close to 20 early in the day. It'll be cool and hazy with temperatures making it to the mid to upper 30s. St. George, you're going to be close to 50 for a high tomorrow. So really nice weather there, but still a cool start for sure. Mostly cloudy sky throughout the day tomorrow. And then for tomorrow at 2 o'clock here across the state, many of us close to about 30 to 40 degrees. So with temperatures tomorrow still below average, we have high pressure that's building. We could see some additional chances for snow Saturday night, but then into next week is when we're going to see our bigger changes for sure here across the region. But for Saturday morning, we'll also have quite a few clouds across southern Utah. Now for St. George, you're going to have temperatures close to 50 tomorrow, closer to 60 heading into President's Day. By Wednesday next week, mid-40s in St. George with rain, maybe some flurries mixing in. For Salt Lake, we have 30s Friday, Saturday, 40s Sunday through Tuesday. Widespread snow in the forecast next week. We'll talk more about that coming up in the Super 7-day forecast. Right now, the time is 9:22. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. The temporary pop-up liquor store for NBA All-Star Weekend is now open in downtown Salt Lake City. It is the first time the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Services has done something like this.
We knew that with the large influx of visitors anticipated for this event, that there were going to be public safety concerns, traffic congestion concerns, and then also concerns for our local residents who want to shop and buy their products without being in really long lines.
The store features all Utah-made brands, also brands by NBA stars and other celebrities, and of course, the popular national and international options. The store is on the east side of the Salt Palace Convention Center. Hours are 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. today through Saturday.
Well, fans with tickets to this weekend's All-Star Game are in for an immersive experience. Fox 13 News got a preview of this NBA ID member entrance. As they enter the arena, members will feel like they're courtside for 30 seconds as they encounter the sights and sounds of NBA All-Stars past and present up close. The portal features responsive LED floor technology and a first-of-its-kind immersive dynamic content on 3 sides. But if you aren't a member, the NBA says they have a goal of creating exciting experiences for fans of all ages throughout the weekend and around the city.
There's a ton of family-focused programming. We really want to engage audiences of all ages, of all interests. We have a ton of ancillary events such as Practice, a celebrity game, and Rising Stars, where we have plenty of affordable options for fans.
To learn more about all these events, go to nbaevents.com/allstar.
A Utah woman has won big with the NBA All-Star Weekend because of her drive and ambition, and it has nothing to do with basketball.
I'm shocked, honestly. Grateful, but I'm shocked.
After the break.
The stage is set for NBA All-Star Weekend, but do you remember the last time it came to town in 1993? We'll introduce you to some people you might know and some people you don't who are still working here 30 years later.
Heated emotions as parents watch their kids compete. But there's a better way. How the NBA is helping manage the swell of anger and turning it into something positive for you and your children.
Exciting. A Utah woman just walked away with $50,000 for her small business. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
She participated in a pitch competition tonight at the Salt Palace as part of the NBA All-Star Weekend.
And that is where we find Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree tonight. Jenna, tell us about this competition.
That's right, Bob and Kelly. The NBA Foundation's first ever pitch competition just wrapped up a couple hours ago. The goal to, bring exposure to Black entrepreneurs. We had 8 finalists who pitched their businesses and technologies to a panel of judges, including the Utah Jazz governor and the chief marketing officer for American Express. But first place prize went to Jenna White. She's a Salt Lake City native and the owner of Empire Body Waxing. In her pitch, she talked about her unique salon that offers luxurious and affordable waxing, making it accommodating for women and men. The survivor turned advocate of domestic violence constantly donates a portion of her profits to local groups like the Utah Coalition Against Sexual Assault. White was among 4 other finalists from Utah. The other 4 are from all over the country, from Memphis to Boston. She says she was not expecting to win, but is excited to put the money toward opening a second location in Utah County.
Brazilian waxing was illegal here until in my lifetime. So. And truthfully, I didn't come into this competition with the goal to win. I was like, I'll get some exposure, I'll get some feedback on what I'm doing, I'll meet some people, the network. So the fact that I won is I'm shocked, honestly. Grateful, but I'm shocked.
What we really focused on from a chamber perspective was business and education, because those 2 are really important. It's important for the future of Utah, because what's critically important is that we work in a manner and elevate what's really happening here to ensure that all Black businesses are vital to the economic ecosystem of this state.
Sydney Shorter says this is just one of 7 events the Utah Black Chamber of Commerce is putting on this weekend with the NBA, including STEAM boot camps for children of color and a Black business panel discussion. The Chamber wants to ensure Utah's Black community is recognized during the All-Star Weekend. Reporting live in Salt Lake City, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Jenna, thank you so much. Many are remembering the last time Salt Lake City hosted the NBA All-Star Game. That was quite a while ago.
It was. The game was held on February 21st, 30 years ago in 1993. Decades later, there are still people who work with the Jazz gearing up to work on their second All-Star game.
Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph has their stories.
The year was 1993. Bill Clinton had been inaugurated as the 42nd president.
His sheer excellence, his broad understanding of the law.
There was a Walkman in every pocket. And the biggest stars in the NBA were rolling into Salt Lake City.
Inside, and they love that. Stopped it inside to Barkley, knocked away.
And right alongside them
What a game for him.
was the man calling all the moments. Did you hear that announcer? That voice in the background that said Michael Jordan? Well, if you walk into a Jazz game today, you'll hear that same voice.
It's the biggest thing in town. I mean, it's the NBA.
This is Dan Roberts, the in-arena announcer for the Utah Jazz.
The first game I ever did was in 1979, their first game. We were in the Salt Palace. There was less than 8,000 people in there. We played Milwaukee and they beat the crap out of us. On and on we went, and we survived.
Things were a little different in 1993.
The place was packed.
The crowd is loving it.
But the end result of all of that was all paper. All the scripting was paper. All the planning was just endless because they had to communicate. There was no internet.
Now it's all digital, but the prep starts right here at the same desk 30 years later.
I start right here. I mean, I've been doing it so much, I know what to do. A prodigious amount of wine helps me out following a game.
But this weekend will be special because for the first time, it will be a father-son duo as Dan's son Jeremy takes the mic for some of the festivities.
I taught the young fella how to do it. He can imitate me to a T, and that's so cool.
So as Dan continues to lend his voice,
I was finishing up my master's program at the University of Utah, and we had to do an internship.
Mark Powell,
and I just bugged the people at the Delta Center for like 3 months straight,
is working hard.
And they finally brought me on at the start of the basketball season.
As the senior VP of events, Mark plans a lot of what goes on at the arena.
And so I was an intern during the NBA All-Star game.
But it all started here.
But I remember the week of All-Star, I worked 112 hours in 1 week. It sounds cliche, but it feels like yesterday.
Especially because of where he sat.
The person that was the main event manager, and I was just his intern, he's like, come on, let's find a place to sit.
But Michael Jordan with the basketball. Now he gives a little show.
And he put a chair right behind Michael Jordan, and he took a chair right behind some other player, and we sat there the whole game. I sat right behind Michael Jordan the entire game, watched it. So that's not going to happen this year.
While Mark was watching the game,
it was already exciting to be an usher here because the arena had just barely opened.
LaVon was helping out in the stands as an usher.
It's been a while, but I just remember that feeling that was so exciting.
Something she's done ever since.
I came to the arena because of my late husband. We were students and we couldn't afford tickets, and we were trying to figure out a way to, be part of this.
Things have changed in 30 years.
I'm far enough down the road where I'm kind of 2 to 3 generations from where I started.
Coach Sloan and John and Carl, and
that was the story.
You just had that tradition.
And we had the best players in the league.
The team was just the workhorse, and they were always in the playoffs, always in the hunt.
But the devotion of these three remains the same.
I've hung on with them each and every moment.
I just love what I do. It's so much fun. It's something new every day. And
this might sound silly, but I enjoy working with people. I enjoy getting to know different people.
So as we again take on the All-Star game,
the fact that we have the game makes us qualified. We're getting close to a fairly big-time city.
It's a memory to make.
Even if you don't have a ticket, come down to downtown Salt Lake and experience it.
Because who knows, it might be 30 more years before we get to see all of the NBA star power right here being etched into the history books.
So the stage is set, Vivint Arena, all dressed up for the big weekend. All of that kicks off tomorrow. And I guess if you miss it this weekend, you could wait till 2050? I guess at this rate, 30 years from now would be 2053, and that's when the next NBA All-Star game comes? I certainly hope not. In downtown Salt Lake City, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Wow. God willing, we'll be here for the next one.
That's right. Thank you very much. God willing, yes. Coming up, the NBA held a clinic today, not for athletic children, but for their parents. Their tutorial on turning that passion for sports into motivation for their children.
Plus, All-Star Weekend is providing a big facelift for a South Salt Lake elementary school that really needed it. We'll show you all the changes that the NBA and former Jazz players showed off today.
If you are a parent who sometimes gets too heated at your children's sporting events, you're not alone. Today at the Taylorsville Rec Center, NBA players put together a clinic for parents of high school athletes. Their tutorial focused on how to be a motivating factor for your child and help them learn life lessons such as empathy and perseverance in sports.
Really helping them become what we call a second goal parent. A parent that focuses on the second goal of sports, which is teaching life lessons to kids, and letting the coaches do the coaching and the players do the playing. Oftentimes parents say, wow, this was such a great experience. I have a lot of fun watching my athlete participate in sports, but I never realized some of the ways I can be, taking from that experience of my child.
The Positive Coaching Alliance also does workshops for coaches and athletes.
Let the coaches do the coaching.
Yes.
Good advice. Past and present Utah Jazz players were at a South Salt Lake elementary school today to help unveil a much-needed makeover, all thanks to the NBA and State Farm. Lincoln Elementary School opened 100 years ago in 1923. We'll take a look now at this brand new gym for the Bobcats. Just notice the difference between these new baskets and then the old ones. That certainly was an old one there. Plus, brand new floors adorned with the Bobcat mascot center court, as well as the Utah Jazz and NBA All-Star Weekend logos popping up in the corners there. That's a memory. And who better help break in these new hoops than past and present Utah Jazz players? Thurl Bailey, Ricky Green, Carlos Boozer, and current point guard Colin Sexton were there to remind these kids they were once in their shoes.
I just want one thing from you guys, right? I want you guys to say, I can do it. All right, we're going to say it. I want you to scream it, all right? On three, right? 1, 2, 3. You can do it. There you go. I feel like you can do it.
Aw. I like that. Colin seems like he's really great with children there. The players also unveiled this brand new STEM center equipped with 3D printers, virtual reality, and high tech for the school's robotics club and Lego League.
Still ahead, Governor Cox touched on several high-profile topics during his monthly news conference today, where he stands on bills about abortion, the Great Salt Lake, social media, and psychedelic mushrooms.
Ooh, later in sports, a local high school squad caps off an incredible regular season. We're off to Colt country, plus college hoops as well. We all remember what happened the last time Utah faced Arizona. Could they shock them again? Back in a bit.
Craig Smith,
From abortion clinics to the Great Salt Lake, Utah legislators have been considering many topics.
Today, Governor Cox weighed in during his monthly news conference. Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow was there and has this recap tonight.
Happy All-Star Week to all those who celebrate.
Governor Spencer Cox weighed in on bills pending in the legislative session. He supports one that closes abortion clinics by 2024 and removes rape and incest exemptions for abortion after 18 weeks.
That gives plenty of time for a decision to be made, and people will have an opportunity to get an abortion.
On the Great Salt Lake, the governor supports a bill that will regulate U.S. magnesium, which environmentalists claim is one of Utah's top polluters.
I want to make sure that it actually does what it's supposed to do, but I anticipate that if it passes, I would sign it.
He insists progress is being made in the legislature to help the Great Salt Lake.
We've asked for $500 million. I feel confident we're going to get that, maybe more. I'd be happy if we got more. And then I want to see the structure around how we're actually going to make sure that the water that we're conserving gets to the Great Salt Lake.
But the governor will not support a bill legalizing psychedelic mushrooms.
It's just not there yet. We got there with medical medical marijuana. I just don't believe the science is there. I don't believe we should be experimenting on 5,000 people here in our state, and I think there are some serious consequences and side effects societally as well as medically that I'm just not comfortable with.
On a bill he signed into law instituting a moratorium on gender-affirming health care for transgender youth, the governor says the bill is a work in progress and offered this message to those who feel under attack by the state.
We still care deeply about you. I care deeply about you. And I know you probably don't want to hear that. It doesn't fit the narrative. I get that. But what I am also saying is that we are trying to get more resources to help you through this very difficult time in your life. I do want to make Utah, I've been striving to make Utah a much more inclusive place.
The governor says he will sign bills that crack down on social media platforms and believes privacy concerns will be addressed.
We are literally killing our kids with this stuff, and if that means we have to put some things into place to make a change, even if it disrupts their model, by the way, where they are making copious amounts of money off of our kids.
Again, a lot of those bills are still making their way through the legislative session. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The Fox 13 News investigative team has reported on staffing shortages and assaults at Utah's new billion-dollar prison. The governor was asked today, when did he learn the prison in Salt Lake City was going to need more staff than the old prison?
It seems like common sense that it would require more than not, although I know there's been some discussion about that. There were some legislators who felt like they were told it would be less labor intensive.
Some states have had state troopers or even members of the National Guard come in to help work at their state prisons. Is that something Utah will consider?
I hope we don't need it, again, only because our staffing is increasing. Had you asked me that question 6 months ago, the answer would have been possibly, yeah.
Governor Cox says he is reviewing every assault case against a staff member at the new prison.
Faith leaders rallied on Utah's Capitol Hill today, demanding the legislature do more to save the Great Salt Lake.
It is clear that the ecological crisis facing Great Salt Lake is also a crisis of faith.
The group is pushing for water conservation bills and funding while also expressing frustration with bills that are not passing. Fox 13 News reported last night on a bill to create a commissioner to oversee statewide efforts to save the lake.
A live look downtown Salt Lake City, right next to Vivint, as we're going to see a lot of activity happening there this weekend. But right now it feels like it's 26 degrees for anybody who's wrapping up dinner, heading home for the night, getting off of work. We do have some cool temperatures for you into the overnight hours. So it'll be about 20 degrees through much of the evening here in Salt Lake. Then for tomorrow for Cache County, Davis, Salt Lake, Utah, Duchesne, and Uintah counties, moderate air for tomorrow. So we still will have some haze in the forecast. Temperatures here across the state at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, feeling like they're in the single digits for a few locations. Layton, Ogden, Cache Valley right around 0 or below 0. Alta below 0, Park City below 0, Vernal below 0. Very cold down towards Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, and Zion National Park. And then throughout the day tomorrow for a finally Friday, one day closer to the weekend, one more wake up till the weekend. We are going to have temperatures that are close to 35 to 40 for a high tomorrow. High pressure briefly takes hold. That means we'll see some calm conditions, some decent mild weather. And then we're going to have a system that brushes by on Saturday night. It's going to drop in from the north. Our best chance for some snow for Ogden with that first weak system will be Saturday night. Sunday morning, maybe a few flurries for northern Utah. Then we see some better chances for snow to move in Tuesday and Wednesday next week. All right, there's still a lot of uncertainty with our storm next week, but there's the chance that it is a big weather system that brings travel impacts to much of the region. So I want you to be prepared just in case we end up on the extreme side of things. So this potentially could be a really big weather maker. I want to make sure that you guys are listening and understanding that that's a potential for next week. For Provo, Saturday night and Sunday, widely scattered snow is possible. And then for St. George, you could tap into some moisture next Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we look at our chance of heaviest precipitation. Our precipitation forecast, water equivalents, maybe even more than 2 to 3 inches of a water equivalent, which would be several feet of snow for the northern mountains and potentially some big totals here in the valleys too. Low confidence in the exact details right now, but we're going to be watching that. St. George, you're close to 50 tomorrow, 60 this weekend. For Salt Lake, 30s through Saturday. And then we've got temperatures into the 40s heading into President's Day with more chances for rain and snow middle of next week. Cold, wet weather will round out the month of February.
Hard to believe it was nearly 3 months ago, but on December 1st of last year, Utah Hoops made a splash with one of the biggest upsets in program history, taking out number 4 Arizona by 15 at the Huntsman Center. Of course, doing the same in Tucson tonight could be tricky with the now 8th-ranked Wildcats, an 11-point favorite. Utah just a game back of Zona in the Pac-12 race. Great opening half from Brandon Carlson, the South Jordan native, dropping 14 in the first, close to half their points, but the Utes still trailing 21-13, make that 24-13. Courtney Ramey immediately dials up for the Cats, and then nice interior work here by Arizona. The freshman Henry Vasar on the receiving end of the lob, all home team at the midway point, same vibe, half 2. Ajulas Tubelis with the quick hook over Carlson. Kirk Kreese then making the lead 18. A tale of 2 games, as episode 2 right now is not even close. BYU back home to host Santa Clara. The Broncos 3rd in the WCC. The Cougars 6th coming in. Spencer Johnson finding Fus Traore early for an 8-6 Coug advantage, only to watch the Broncos buck off a big run in Provo. Cameron Tongue have mercy. The road team's lead was 17 at the intermission. Carlos Stewart, not only the steal, but the bucket as well. Blue ate into that lead some in the second half, but ran out of time to complete a comeback, 81-74. Another tough loss as they have dropped 6 of their last 8. In the Big Sky, Weber State visiting Sac State. Alex 2 flying in for a baseline flush. Wildcats of 5 with 16 minutes left. But the Hornets soon trade dunk for dunk, skipped in for Akal Maywin. Weber, though, ekes out a close one. Dylan Jones cleaning up his own miss, 52-49. One high school game of note tonight, Cottonwood with a chance to wrap up their regular season unscathed in Region 7. Uinta in from Vernal. Eddie Pinales and the Utes led after 1 quarter, but here come the Colts. Chris Cox, coast to coast. And then a Cottonwood swipe here. Nice pickpocket and transition dunk by Jackson Price. And they nearly hit 100 tonight, 96-62. Cox dropped 40 points. It's Cottonwood's 21st straight win dating back to November 30th. Officially All-Star break time for the Jazz. The team today parting ways with Leandro Balmaro, the guard from Argentina, only laced up in 14 games over his 4 months with the team, averaging less than a point per contest. The Bees today announced their new skipper for the upcoming season, and it's a name you may recognize. Keith Johnson returning for his 3rd stint now with the Bees. He managed here in Salt Lake between 2011 and 14, and again between 16 and 18. Johnson was most recently the first base coach for the Miami Marlins. BYU softball with an upset at Arizona State tonight. It was close going into the 7th when the Lady Cougars ripped off 5 in the top half of the 7th to pull away. Ailana Agbayani with a 2-run RBI. Violet Zavodnik adding a late ribby as well as BYU doubles up the 22nd-ranked Sun Devils 10-5. And on the links, Tiger Woods competing for the first time in 7 months and ended round 1 of the Genesis Invitational on a tear. Great bend at 17. In fact, Tiger birdied his final 3 holes to finish at 2 under at a tie for 27th. Tony Finau 1 over. We're right back.
Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News at 9.
Stick around for QuickCast. It's up next.